ABBA 6. Testimonials, Questions and Answers. June 13, 2018. So we are here again and we will listen together to what you have to say. Then we can go. Sister, I took notes because it will be easier for me to express myself. 2 days ago, following these beautiful testimonies from my sisters, I received, through my chest, from left to right, an enormous energy. I was as if struck by lightning and the word ABBA came to me. Then the sacrum lit up, this energy went up through my head, and then established itself all over my body. Later, during the 21 o'clock alignment, in my heart manifested itself as a painting of dark color, burgundy or brown, on which ABBA was written in large letters of fire. This painting is always in my heart, like a treasure. End of testimony. Beloved, as you know and as you see, ABBA is present in everyone. This presence can be formless or take many forms. It makes no difference. Here too, it is only a decoration, whether in letters of fire, whether by lightning, or by another body, or by another brother or sister, it makes no difference, the result being the recognition of who you are, by the grace of ABBA who shows you that you are ABBA. At this moment, as I said earlier, as soon as this is seen, then for you, everything is accomplished, everything is completed, and therefore the resurrection can be finalized, actualized, in the likeness of love, in the likeness of the smile and in the likeness of the tears of joy. ABBA knocks at your door from inside and outside, to do the miracle of one thing there too, where there is no longer any distance, where there is no difference, where there is just the evidence of love, the evidence of joy, the evidence of lightness. And moreover, as I was saying earlier, whatever the nature and content of the testimonies, the purpose is always the same, to restore to you, to love beyond any form, where everything is only joy and happiness, where there is nothing to ask for, where there is nothing to suffer. All this is now happening in extremely short periods of time, so that a multitude can rediscover their gift and give themselves in the same way, in order to give themselves to each other, for those who doubt, for those who feel guilty, for those who refuse the evidence of the truth, for those who negotiate, without any difference. Love is from everywhere and you have the responsibility, a duty of love that is much more than a service, that is much more than a gift from one's person, but it is the gift of love that cannot be retained and that can only be spread from one person to another, from everywhere. It is easy, as I told you, you don't need big speeches, a simple gesture, a simple look, a simple smile, a few words are usually enough and it will be easier for each of you to see, easier to live with. The turbulence is linked to the upheaval of consciousness since the end of the primary anomaly allows us to realize the dream of eternity within the very illusion of this world, making us find the only reality, the only true one. Each of you is the theater of your own resurrection, reflecting and contemplating yourself in each other, before taking communion in each other. Everything is perfect and everything is done in the same perfection, in the same evidence. As I wrote, there is no room for chance. As it has been written, God may play dice, but ABBA does not play dice. ABBA plays the score, that of perfect music, that of perfect silence. He does not play it by himself, but he has instilled it in the poet's lack of love, in the guilt of certain singers, certain images, certain composers, because what could be better than the one who shows and demonstrates, than the one who sings? Even if he had the impression of singing nostalgia, love or other of this world, he only sings about the love that was not known in this world, because it was lost while it was still there. Thus love gives you to see and experience what has never been possible until now, except, of course, for some saints, some beings. Today, indeed, whatever the past, in the noblest sense, you are becoming saints, but not saints to be photographed, not saints to be prayed, but saints of love, saints of the evidence, witnesses of the truth and especially those who, in spite of all the appearances of this world and in spite of all the sufferings, manifest and live this love. You are the living witnesses, you are the witnesses of life, the witnesses of love, who have been found in oblivion and in death sometimes to the illusions of this world. You are the saints of waiting. For those who for so many years, valiantly, have been waiting without living anything, because they know that this is true, not because they were fleeing a world that, of course, did not correspond to them, but because they knew. To each of you, I want to say peace, because when love is there, really, even if it is not known to you in its totality, all this is revealed, from your inside, from your outside, since ultimately there is neither nor outside, neither before nor after. Thus, in that you describe, for example, that you have lived, the lightning bolt which, as you say, did not come in front of the center of the heart, but crossed the line of unity and of the soul, of the spirit and the soul, in order to realize the cross, not that of suffering, but this crucifixion in the end, of which we had spoken. You are living it now. It is not the end, it is not suffering, it is the end of forgetting, yes, and the end of experiencing the lack of love. And you, the witnesses, come to strengthen, by your example, what you say, what you are, the possibility for everyone to consider that this is the only truth and to live it then with more and more evidence. This is the best gift, this is the only truth. There is no longer any need for books, as you know, there is no longer any need for religions, there is no need to understand anything, just to live it, and you will see, whatever the time that passes, you will notice that your life, in its entirety and no longer only under certain circumstances, is constantly living synchronicities of all kinds, celebrations of all kinds. Everything is illuminated, not by your willingness to understand or enlighten, but directly by the enlightenment of who you are. You see, today, you can say it with me, there is nothing simpler, really, there is nothing simpler. It is enough for you to say yes, but not yes to a character even if he bears the name of ABBA, yes to yourself first I told you, yes to life, yes to love, yes to the end of death, end of suffering, end of everything that happens, in order to know what has always been there, without superfluous and without request. So I leave you the floor, as I said earlier, because your words are much stronger than mine and it is the truth. ABBA is nothing, he is each of you, a simple human, having lived the same lives as all of you. Today, each of you finds yourself in the same situation, there can be no difference between each of us and it was impossible to do otherwise. So, I am listening to you again, we are listening to each other. Because there is lived the alchemy of love that nothing that happens can really and concretely thwart. Who wants to talk? Voice. A sister. Sister, I wanted to express our dream that has just come true, when ABBA spoke of partition. So I had this dream almost 30 years ago. In the dream, I lived in the Netherlands, country from below, and I visited the country, the city. And I had to go to a place where I was among a choir to make a score, where a score was being played. It was a huge choir that was planned, it was like something quite global. And I lingered in the village, I was captivated by a plant I saw, which was called the body of Christ, that's it. And when I looked at the time, I was very, very late to go to the choir and everyone was ready when I arrived, but the choir couldn't start until there was a member missing, and that was me. And I set myself up, and the singing could start. So thank you, because now I'm in the choir and anything can happen. Laughs. You see, even the very old dreams, of the past elements of your life, are coming back up. They are not to disturb you, they are simply for each of you keys that are unique to you. This dream, at the moment you did it, like so many others will go through dreams that were made at the time, that were dreams. They had no possibility of becoming the reality. I told you, dreams are now the reality, they are filled with ABBA, they are filled with you. And today, as you say, it is becoming clearer 30 years later. Everything that has been hidden will be revealed for each of you, it is already the case, but it will continue and grow there too with evidence, because everything you look at, everything you touch, everything you live or have lived, was ultimately only intended to bring you to that moment. Here too, embrace, you no longer even need to understand the symbols or the meaning, since it has become real today and that is what you are experiencing for the dreams of the past. Silence. Who wants to talk? Voice. A sister. Sister, during the previous testimony, just before the break, of all my sisters, I was suddenly taken by an emotion. As they testified, I lived and I was in communion with them and I lived their suffering. I felt it, and my tears began to flow and could not stop, whereas usually I am someone who does not feel much, at the level of all that is burning, to feel something and everything. Voice. Emotions, I suppose. Same sister. Not emotions, vibrations and things like that. And since then I have really felt my heart vibrate, and, as soon as we started again, the tears start flowing again without respite, and I feel my heart vibrate and I give thanks. Sister, what you are expressing is precisely nothing more than the disappearance of all the interference fringes, all the predation lines of the primary anomaly, the guilt. As I said, the Christic matrix and the Christic consciousness are active. You are connected, we are connected, by heart and by head. You have the formal demonstration of it. It is also in this sense that the testimonies are not only the testimonies of those who testify, but they are also yours, they belong to you, and it is in this sense that, no longer having separation, no longer having guilt, you realize this, and it can only come from the heart. Listening, hearing, reading the other, embracing it, paying attention to it, is already embracing it. And by embracing it, whether it is even through simple words, without going so far as to enter it, simply through your conscience which is in front of and turned towards him or her, and which listens to what is said, spoken or otherwise, you live it in the same way. This too is the greatest demonstration of the power of love, of course, but of the disappearance on this earth, of everything that could conceal it, slow it down or prevent it. This contagion has nothing to do with group contagion, as can happen with certain emotions or sympathies or empathies. There, it is not that, it is that you are really beginning to live that we are all in each other and that we all have the same ability to connect beyond time and space, from now on, to any other brother and sister. It is in this now that you find love, much more easily than with me now and much more easily than with any white lighter. Why? Because you are the beings of light, because those you see in your heavens, those who have spoken to you for so many years, from everywhere, are only in you. You could not see it, now you live it among yourselves, you no longer need something external, because love has revealed itself. And this is what, by demonstrating it to each other through your words, describes it, your gestures, your looks, which amplified and realized, as I said, the signal of the end times. I gave you each the conductor's baton. It could not be otherwise there either, you could only say yes yourselves, no so-called external authority could do so. So, of course, for those who follow the peregrinations of ABBA and some, you can see that there is movement, but the most important thing, I would say, is no longer played out at the level of archetypes, at the level of the elements or at another world. It is played out here directly and simply, because there is nothing else than that. You are contagious. Virulence has never been reached at this level by any virus or bacteria on this earth, the love virus being the most powerful virus that can exist. You are beginning to experience this, and it will, of course, multiply, as soon as we are connected at the same time, at the same moment, by your silence and by my words, and indeed whatever those words may be. If I could sing, I would sing to you and you would all hum the same chorus, that of love found and lived in its fullness, beyond any mask, any suffering, any past and any future. Silence. Who wants to express themselves? Voice. We have someone. Brother, I would like to express my gratitude for all these testimonies of my human sisters who have greatly echoed in me. They help me a lot to ease my guilt. I have heard this guilt among my sisters in this feeling of having been soiled or not always being in the right place to promote life, creation, and I would like to testify to my own guilt as a man, the one I am discovering and which today is beginning to disappear, to fade away. You can see this direct contagion here. In fact, when you testify, you are not only testifying, you are creating what you have experienced in this world by writing or speaking it, but you are not keeping it to yourself, but you are giving it and delivering it to the world. And as our brother says, of course there is echo and resonance, because you're only ultimately telling the same story, of the one who finds the truth. So I'm not going to speak in parables, it's no longer our time, I'll just tell you, don't hesitate. The more you let yourself be expressed, in any way, whether it is by verses, by a brush, by a flower you pick, what is pleasant for you, use it, and the other, who is not the other, will recognize you, because he will recognize himself above all. It is more than sympathy, it is more than empathy, it is the gift of self, it is giving one's person, and the other recognizes himself in this gift. I can't tell you better. The more you give, the more you receive, and this embrace is not in sounding and stumbling cash, it is simply in love that touches you. As soon as one, the others out of you, resound to what you will say. There is just that, you don't need any other magic, you don't need any technique, you're all equipped to do that, whatever your age, whatever your expression or speech skills, whatever your language, because there will be less and less difference, note it well, and I can tell you, it's only the beginning. Do not imagine that this beginning will last long, but simply it is only the beginning of something so vast, so true, that nothing that can happen on the surface of this world can alter or divert you. And besides, you may already feel it where you live, as soon as one of the elements is put into action, it is lived in you, it comes to wash you, it is water, it comes to burn you, it is fire, it comes to blow on you, it is the verb that is necessary for you, it comes to shake you if you have become too rigid. The result is always the same, the reality of love, which, as I said and as Bida said recently too, you cannot be wrong, you all cannot be wrong. When you hear what is being said this afternoon or elsewhere, what doubt can remain when experience replaces understanding and listening? So you are right, because not only have you heard the testimonies, in any case here, but you have made them yours and made them yours, you're in the gift. You have welcomed the other person in their entirety, and that is why, by listening or also by testifying afterwards, you can only have your heart on the edge of your lips and tears in the corner of your eyes. So see, I tell you again, when I close my eyes, I see you all, because this is ABBA speaking. When I open my eyes, it is ABBA, but this time human, simply human, like each of you. I have told you, I repeat, there is no difference between ABBA and each of the brothers and sisters on earth and elsewhere. The reign of fear is over, the reign of suffering, of guilt, can no longer be imprinted on you, no matter what happens on earth, wherever you are. Silence. Who wishes to speak, question, testify? Voice. Our brother has not finished his presentation. So I listened, I couldn't hear it anymore. Same brother. I wanted to say that as a man, I never had the feeling that I was in the right place with women, that is, no matter what I did, the deep feeling that I necessarily hurt or worried them. For example, by coming to this place, no matter what I do, I did everything I could to ensure that these circumstances did not occur, but I managed to worry two mothers, my biological mother and my divine mother. I have hit circumstances in which, in recent days, I have kept them going in circles, in worry, for hours, and it was not at all up to me, it was the events that were happening that way. I also had this feeling many times in my life of hurting women wives, like women mothers, and I started to feel a greater peace when I came last month to Wake Mary. I had no idea at all that we would do that, but participating in it brought me a lot of peace, and the stress I had been feeling in my body for years began to fade. I have also noticed the need, for the past few weeks, a few months, to offer many flowers in all forms to women, without really knowing why. And when you spoke earlier about the precise day of Mary's liberation, the precise day made me think that it was the same day as the first woman I met in my life, and I did not want to express all this guilt. And then, someone here, who has the same name as my mother, pushed me to do it. So many synchronicities have taken me out of my introverted habit. Even if I express my emotions only slightly, I would like to thank all women and men deeply for everything I receive invisibly, and in particular, lying on the ground all this week allows me to receive this infinite sweetness, to make this guilt fly away, of which I have never understood or controlled anything. End of testimony. Silence. Now it remains to check what I'm going to tell you. The more you give, the more you give, the more you receive. Then the flowers you have offered to all these women and the forgiveness you have granted them, and in particular for the one who gave you birth in this illusion, will be returned to you 100-fold. It cannot be otherwise with love. It is the second great key. The more you give yourself, the more you give yourself, the more you surrender, the more love has reached you 100-fold. Love only multiplies, it is never divided, it is never taken away. So, now, expect to receive countless gifts, countless flowers, those that honor your righteousness and your sacred masculine. From now on, you no longer need to suffer, you no longer need to manifest any anomaly whatsoever, you just have to accept the gift of grace, for the way you have given yourself, you will receive. It cannot be otherwise, it is the law of one, it is the law of love. Everything else cannot be compared in any way. So, yes, as soon as you say yes to love, as soon as you dare, then everything is given to you. That is why you must surrender yourself, before you are given the truth, because in this act of faith, of total gift, this is how you realize love, by forgiving what you could call guilt or sin in a language of another time. Today it is instantly active and you will all see it extremely quickly. The more you give yourself, the more you receive. Giving yourself, of course, is not only about testifying as you did or as you all did, it is also about no longer putting a screen between each of you. There is no need to take into account appearance, age or conventions, only what never happens. As soon as you take a step towards that, then love makes 10 steps towards you, and you are obliged to see it, and you are obliged to live it. But who could refuse this gift? Who could oppose this, except, of course, if he is afraid of it or does not know it? And this is already so present, so insistent, you have no space or place to hide from love. And this is what you will see in life. The more you give yourself, the more you receive. So I can only tell you to buy several vases. Laughs. Who wants to talk? Sister, I realize, at this very moment, that it is not only the coming of ABBA, the man who has disturbed me since the beginning of the week, but all these testimonies as well, and especially the one from the first hour, which was very long, and which moved me a lot, as well as those of my brothers and sisters who followed, and who still brought tears. But there is more to it than that. I realize that this so vast and so great that is coming, will completely change everything. Thank you very much. Let me add, if it's not finished, one little thing before you go on. ABBA has nothing to do with it. It is, above all, with you and also with all those who have suffered and worked in silence, in oblivion of themselves, and in particular the one who has always hidden from herself, through such humility that even long ago, she could never accept this weight. Today, your testimonies will not only bring us all together, here as everywhere, you'll see it, but there is also this restitution work that takes away the guilt of the person who has taken the weight. I remind you, there is no one to adore, there is just to consider oneself with the same gaze, with the same love, without making the slightest difference, because there is none, despite all appearances. Christ said it, what you do to the least of you, you do to me. ABBA today tells you, what you do to the least of you, you do to yourself. So, seeing this time the action of one, what do you prefer, stealing the other, taking the other, making him suffer, or rather loving him to be loved in return by love? There is the true meaning of forgiveness, there is the true meaning of retribution, there is the true gift, there is the true gift. It does not happen in the head, it happens in the illusion of this world, and it happens in your chest, on your lips and in your eyes, and it is a constant. You'll see it from everywhere, you already see it from everywhere. Love is everywhere, really, here too, everywhere. It is up to you to discover it, and you can only discover it, as I said, by giving yourself and also by embracing, without limits, without barriers. Moreover, you can no longer use them if it is not your ultimate resistance. Remember that there is no sin, no fault, no error in you, in each of you, since in love, which has always been there, everything is always perfect. Simply certain circumstances to discover it may have been difficult, painful. Today, it's over, a simple testimony and you are contaminated, a simple name, and you want to give. You see, what could be simpler, what could be more obvious, what could be lighter? What world, whatever it is, can offer you to live this, permanently, beyond the game of form, beyond the illusion of individuality? There remains only that, so that everything else, your body, the world, these dimensions, the sun, the moon, the planets, the architecture of the worlds, is no longer of any interest, because you are fulfilled with this, you know it, that's what you find. Silence. Who is speaking? Voice. Our sister wanted to act that all these tears are only tears of joy, a truly immense joy. And living it here all together really takes on a new dimension. This was called other dimensions. Are you trust dimensions? Laughs. Of course, it can only be tears of joy. Love is only joy, and it has been so long that you can only cry for joy. There is not only this divine emotion of the resurrection, but there is the persistence of this state, whatever you say, whatever you do, and if you think you are losing it, then it is very simple, you just have to give yourself back to each brother or sister who grants it, and also offer this embrace, in order to prove to yourself that ultimately it is only one and the other, that everything is true. There is no sensible experience possible without love. Love is present everywhere. It is both the binder and the unbinder. It is all that you are living in this moment, that you are experiencing in an ever more intense way. But each experience does not only pass, it only enriches you each time, filling you up more and more, making you able to give more and more, giving yourself, really and concretely. It cannot fail, it is impossible, strictly impossible. Love is lived, it is not only thought or idealized, it is not only certain moments of ecstasy of any kind, it is really these reunions of love. Silence. Who is speaking? Voice. We have a sister. Sister. First of all, I would like to thank my brothers and sisters who testified this afternoon, by expressing to me the suffering they had experienced, and I received all this with great emotion and joy in my heart, to see this liberation, these liberations, and I give thanks infinitely. The words cannot express what I feel. I give thanks to ABBA, because he concluded by saying to me that ABBA loves you as much as you love him, and I received this sentence in my heart, and finally this love that I have sought for so long, and it has caused waves of tears and laughter. Thank you. You too can be thanked. You see, at the time, Christ said, love each other. I told you, love one another, because there is no other love. And now, see, ABBA has closed the book. You write down in writing, in words, what it translates. You are not writing a book. Even if you were writing it, it is not a testimony either, as I have told you, nor even a testimony. It is the truth of love that is spreading from one person to another, in the same way as songs and images, but in a way, I will say, directly from this faith. Because we no longer pass through dreams and poetry, we no longer pass through vibrations, we no longer pass through energy or any seduction, but simply through the reality of what is, in this nakedness of love which has been named naked love. You need nothing else. You have found the kingdom of heaven within you. You have found ABBA, who is nothing but yourself. So indeed, there is no greater satisfaction, there can be no element or event much greater than that. What you are experiencing now, and you will see, moreover, whatever the event and whatever elements and events occur, nothing will be able to limit or amputate what you are experiencing, because love is stronger than everything else. That is what you are experiencing. This is the gift of grace that you have given yourself. This is how the one truth of love now unfolds with great majesty, Because here in love, you live it. What else do you want? Everything else is given to you, in addition, in abundance, whatever the external circumstances may be. So of course, this love, you will live it and see it, also changes many things in your body, in your rhythms of this world, but above all, you see and you will see that you can only remain in this love because, basically, there can be nothing else. This is how you come out of the illusion of the dream. It is neither achievement nor even a liberation, although this one is in progress. It is to live love. The word has been said, let us live love by being love. Everything else does not need your person and everything else organizes itself, makes itself actual. It is in this sense that many elders told you that you should let life live you, rather than want to live your life. There is nothing more evident, here again, more evident than that. It's up to you to check it out. It is up to you to live it, in your newfound freedom. ABBA is not here to tell you to create anything, no movement, no more than your simple word, your simple words and creations. If you are creative, whatever. What emanates from you is love, whatever the medium, you check it. Silence. Is there anything else? Testimonies, questions? Voice. A sister. Our sister wanted to thank our brother who spoke earlier. Sister. Because he made me realize that I had not forgiven a man. I thought I had forgiven the father who died when I was young. I thought I had forgiven the man who abandoned me, and I realized that no, he made me realize that just now. And since I am on the subject of confidences, well, I have a great feeling of guilt about the harm I may have done to some people, and that makes me feel unworthy to be loved. There you go. Then ABBA asks each of you, is she less worthy than the worst murderer? Big no in the room. So what should be done in these cases? General answer, love her, take her in your arms, take it in our hearts. That's it, it's up to you to work. Silence. How are you feeling? Voice. It is subsiding, but it was very difficult for me to say. What is done is done. The penetration of love is done. Sometimes it is dazzling, sometimes it is the sweetness of the white rose, which prefers sweetness to dazzling. It is not you who decides nor me, simply the intelligence of the light that adapts to what is perfect for you. Silence. Who wants to talk? Voice. We have a testimony or a question. We're listening to you. Voice. Our sister would like to thank you for all these testimonies and everything that has been said. It has touched her deeply. She is moved. That is the goal, to touch. Voice. She is moved. I can hear you. Laughs, to be touched and penetrated. Sister. The tears that come up are a joy, to hear all these people telling their experiences, and to see all these sufferings. It touched me deeply, and I just wanted to take all the people in my heart and hold them very tight, and tell them that I love them with all my heart. Thank you. It is not conditional, it is done, whether you like it or not. You said it, you expressed it, so it is done, and it will happen more and more often like that, in an increasingly simple way. There are no more barriers, there are no more limits. The ultimate guilt and suffering are swept away by the power of love, witnesses of love. This is what everyone lives, and all your life, through these dreams, these memories, the experience of suffering in itself, led you today to this love. This is how you see that nothing has been useless, even within the illusion, and that everything is now perfectly orchestrated. You're the musicians of love, you're the singers of love, you're the pilgrims of eternity, the pilgrims of truth. No one can refuse this, absolutely no one can oppose this. Silence. Who is speaking? Voice. We have one more and final question. Our brother would like to share the live experience. Brother. It happened in January 2011. I received the call to come to Paris to meet brothers and sisters of light, to share my awakening, that we had everything in us, that we were this presence. Throughout the week, we went to several places in Paris. Every day, we went to several places, and I felt the heaviness of what was happening in Paris. I had difficulty walking. Then, on the famous Friday, I call it the famous Friday, because with all my brothers and sisters, we went to see a film. I don't remember that film, but the important thing during that film is that I felt invaded. I cried like a Madeleine. It was tears of joy, because during the whole week, they had given love to all the places where they passed. They shared the same love. And on that famous Friday when I cried like a Madeleine, 2 other people who were with us cried too. They were really tears of joy. It is only to express yourself that love is truly liberating. It is the most beautiful thing, because when you have tears of joy, you do not only liberate for yourself, but you liberate for the whole. This is just what I wanted to convey to you, to express to you that love was liberating and that we are not doing it just for ourselves, but for all our brothers and sisters. So that will be the closing words of this day, and you did indeed tell a great truth. The more you give, the more you receive, the more you do not do it for yourself, even if you think you're doing it for yourself. Look at how everyone finds himself in the dream, the speech or the words that the other poses, because you really see that there is no difference, that all the barriers, all the social, moral, energetic conventions that separated the man and the woman, that separated one from the other, no longer exist. The space of reparation is open, the space of fraternity, the space of reconciliation and the space of forgiveness, and each of you acts for each other, and each other acts on the whole. This is the miracle of love, there is no other. Then ABBA, through these few words, can only give you thanks, for some of you, for having held out for so long and for seeing today that, whatever the wounds, sufferings or happy joys of the past, they are converted by love into love and into nothing else. And what our brother said is the strict truth, it is not only for you, since for you and in you, there is everything else. You are now verifying it, in its entirety, on the surface of this world. So ABBA finishes his words. ABBA will come back tomorrow evening, especially to hear you, since you speak better than me. Of course, you may allow me to say a few more words, but I must give you thanks, because all your words, on this day, have only been words of love expressed in total trust, with a strength and truth that cannot be shaken by any mental or discussion, because who can oppose this, who can tell you to pray, go to temples, that you must do exercises of this or that? You see, love is naked, in every sense of the word. Then ABBA blessed you, the way you have blessed me all this afternoon. I love you, of course, infinitely, it couldn't be any other way. All. Thank you, we love you too. Now ABBA greets you. Acknowledgements. Through Jean-Luc Ayoun. The Transformations. French transcript. Agape team. Translation. LMF.